What's up, everybody? We're on a podcast now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about some of the hidden decisions that are built into Dispatch that influence the ending of the game. This is honestly a 10 out of 10, an amazing breakdown from Reddit, and as you can actually read, and I'll link this in the description if you do want to read it, there was major help. There was like 3-4 different people that went over this, and what it basically boils down to is a lot of things have values, okay? So choices that you're making, and here's the thing. You imagine certain choices have big values, right? And have big swings when it comes to the outcomes in Dispatch. Well, as this blog base, I'm going to call it a blog. I mean, it's on Reddit, but as this essay really details, there's just so many different things, including the gameplay side. And I really kind of want to focus on that, even personal-wise, because I got what is considered the good ending. And that's kind of where we start here. So, and I guess spoilers, okay, in case you didn't beat the game. But when we talk about good versus bad ending, I think we're specifically talking about Invisigal taking the bullet for Robert versus her killing Shroud. I don't think this counts like the actual romance going for her over Blonde Blazer. Now, as I've told you guys, in my own playthrough, and a good amount, I actually would say, I think statistically speaking, the majority of the players of Dispatch chose Invisigal, right? Or they got the Invisigal ending. But of course, Invisigal, Blonde Blazer, and then there is what would be considered, and what I do think even from the files of the game is considered the bad ending, right? So bad ending is Invisigal kind of going the anti-hero route, which is definitely a cool one, but it's not my preferred one. It's not the one she did with me. And then the good ending would be her taking the bullet. Okay, so that's where it kind of starts in terms of what we're talking about. And again, I'll link this in the description if you guys want to read it. And like I said, really comes down to values. And so they talk about what is the RMC. It's a counter that affects Vizzy's ending. With a high enough RMC, you will get the heroic ending where she takes a bullet for you. Otherwise, you'll get the villain ending where she kills Shroud. What affects it? So the short answer is a lot. Your RMC is affected through story decisions, succeeding in story-related hacking events, and the bar fight QTEs, all of which are detailed here. However, your RMC is also affected by dispatching. Through testing, the talented GeoFunk has discovered that you will gain RMC in dispatching segments in these ways. So here's the breakdown. When you send her on a successful mission in episodes 2 through 6, you get +1. If you send her on an unsuccessful mission, even if she's not injured, in those same episodes, it's -1. And then if you send her to Blazer to upgrade her power, it's +5. So then kind of totaling it up here, what's the maximum amount of RMC points I can achieve? So 36 points are available via story decisions, hacking, QTEs, with a further 6 points available if you go on a date with Vizzy in episode 4. As for dispatching, there are 8 dispatching shifts between episode 2 and 6. If you're extremely talented dispatcher and rack up 5 mission successes for Vizzy each shift and send her to training, you could gain an extra 45 points, though I expect the average person will gain far less, probably low 20s. How many do you need? Okay, what's the ultimate determination of what the ending is? It's got to be greater than or equal to 45. And they say, do cinematic QuickTime events and unlimited hacks count as successes or fails? And there's Dr. Kaon has confirmed here that yes, those things count as auto successes when it comes to triggering things like the RMC. And then does Vizzy need to be level 8+? And the answer is no. And they say Vizzy's levels in no way tied to the heroic ending. Then they talk about the kiss, leaning in versus leaning out, and then how that affects their RMC. And they say it does not. Invisigal kissing you in the locker room in episode 7 is a scene locked behind another hidden counter called the sweet exit counter, which can be increased by certain dialogue options spanning several episodes. For example, in episode 4, when Vizzy is telling you about her dream, and then you can respond, how was I? That'll give you +1. And you could say, was my blank big? That'll give you nothing. In order for the locker room kiss scene to trigger, your sweet exit counter needs to be greater than or equal to 5. This is why no mentorship stats are tied to the lean in, lean out. That scene is a culmination of your romantic interest in Vizzy. It's not affected by your mentorship of her. Then they say, what about Blonde Blazer, right? So is this kind of just an Invisigal exclusive? And the answer actually is yes, it is an Invisigal exclusive. So in terms of, does she have any hidden counters? The answer is no. Blonde Blazer's romances operates in a more traditional traditional way with true or false variables, kind of like how you make 1 to 2 decisions to lock in a romance in games like Mass Effect. And yes, I am an old BioWare nerd. More about romance flags will be detailed in a future post. What about Mandy Blazer either works decision? That decision only affects the Robert hero and Robert anti-hero counters. It has no effect on the romance. There is a blog specifically for Robert doing the hero anti-hero thing, and they give the breakdown, and I don't necessarily want to read all of it because it literally goes through every single one. A couple things that stand out that even they say. So I believe in episode 5, and again, this is a big one in terms of the bar fight, so whether you knew it or not, I think most of us didn't know it, right? Again, a lot of these things actually affect the Invisigal like plot line. So when you're succeeding, quick time event against Mantis Lady, dodging the countertop to break strong arms, these are +2s, +1s. But the big one, and this is actually a pretty big swing, if you lie, right, and you say that you're Robert, that's -5. If you fess up and you say you're Mecha Man, that's a +5. And just kind of scrolling, up and down here, up until that point, I mean, you got plus and -2s. There's nothing like that's that crazy. The jewelry store hack, right? If you succeed those, it's +4. If you fail both of those, it's -4. If you go on the movie date with her, it's +5. If you do it with Blazer, it's 0. So that's kind of an interesting one, right? It's not negative. If you go with Blazer, you're not advancing, but you're not going into the negatives, right? So really, the date with Invisigal is the same value to the game as owning up to. And you know what? I will say, I actually really like that. That's like a coding thing, but even how it relates to the story, what was Invisigal kind of talking about in the bar, right? And what was the line? Was about owning up to who you are, right? Being honest, and the fact that the group is going to have that kind of trust in order to take that next step. She's the one who like introduced those concepts to him. So I really like that idea. I actually, thinking about it as I'm kind of venting in this video, I actually really, really like that connection because, the point value might be higher than you think, but in reality, it was kind of, the 30 minutes before that was all about that, okay, you can kind of keep misleading or keep like shying away from things, or you can lean in and own up to it, even though, by the way, Invisigal doesn't do that until later, right? But the point's, she's directing it towards Robert. There's a bunch of ones in episode 6, a lot of just plus and -1s, and kind of towards the latter part. And this is actually interesting because I always wondered this, like the Astral Pulse and protecting Invisigal when she's going up against like everybody, right, to get the thing. I actually have not seen like what if you fail all of those. I don't know cinematically how those play out, but there's actually there's 2 of them right there. Well, I think there's maybe 4 or 5 in all. You get 2 +1s or -1s, and you get 2 +2s and -2s. So that's a pretty big. If you're not great at hacking those last 4 things, it could be -6 or it could be a +6, depending on how it goes. And then, episode 7 really seems to have, and I guess episode 8 has one of them, but 7 has a lot of big swings, right? Kind of the final attempt. So like cutting her is -5, defending her is +5. The locker room one is pretty big. Even when she tells you the truth and you say, I don't know how to feel, that's 0. I forgive you, that's 0. That's actually very interesting because I think a lot of people put a lot of stock into those two. I've said before, I actually chose the I don't know how to feel versus I forgive you. I know some people chose the I forgive you. In terms of her response, it's pretty much the same, but there you go. Like the value is actually the same too. And then we're done, -5. Well, here's the thing, -5, if you played it well enough, I guess that doesn't really matter. And then episode 8, the big one would be untying her is +5, going at it alone is -5. But, again, a lot of these things, I think, as you're playing them, or at least some of them, I shouldn't even say a lot of them, some of them as you're playing, you can kind of assume they are impacting the choices, right? But, some of the kind of hidden ones, or as, in the beginning as I was reading, the thing that I found the most interesting was that dispatching has to do with it. And so one thing I want to say before I end this video, I kind of want to circle back and focus on the dispatching part because I think it's really interesting, everything we've just talked about. But the thing that I do think is the most kind of secretive that would catch people off guard is how you use her in the dispatching thing. And, as that breakdown, I think that's why it's important that we read the beginning part in the beginning of this video, right? So you can only get, I believe they say, +36. You have 36 points up for grabs depending on your quick time events moments or, just the choices that you're making, right? Kind of things that are generally right in front of your face. But you have up to 45 more points up for grabs, so you can get into the 70s or 80s. You can do that if you're using her properly in the dispatching side of things, right? And then you need 45 or more in all in order to unlock that good ending. So, as I've said jokingly, but it's also kind of serious, well, actually two things, okay? Maybe fun facts about me. So, number one, I think I was decent at times with the dispatching minigame. Now, oftentimes when I got to the end of the episode, it would tell me I was like in the lowest percentile possible, right? So I did utterly atrocious. But sometimes I felt really good. There were a couple episodes where I was feeling really, really great and I was nailing them. And even those episodes, it told me I was in the bottom percent. But there were some episodes that I did absolutely terrible. Now, I feel like the game gives you a lot. You can really get to like the final ranking of dispatcher, right? You can get there rather easily. And I think you can probably do it in episodes 5 or 6 before you even get to 7, which is kind of the grand finale of dispatching as a mini game, right? So that was one part of it. But another kind of funny part, at least for me, so like I got that good ending. I'm going to assume I got that good ending largely because when it came time to hack, when it came time for those story moment hacking things, I did not let her down. Okay, I tried. I focused in and I really did my job as well as I could. But one thing I didn't do so well, like I said, dispatching, there were an okay amount of failed, missions that I did. And also it's kind of funny, and I felt this when playing. You guys, I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comments about this part in particular. So I actually didn't use her all that much. Invisigal, no joke, was probably bottom 2 in terms of characters that I used. And it's not that I didn't love her, because she was like my favorite character and she was the one romantically I was pushing Robert towards. But I focused, and I did this kind of for every character. I really tried to pick their main trait and extend it quite large. And then I kind of picked traits like 2 and 3 and tried to build them. So characters were not necessarily well-rounded. So they were extremely good at what they were good at, right? But not good at all at what they were not good at. And I kind of did that for everybody. And I found that some characters' mobility would be like their second or third like best trait. So that would sometimes get my skill points I'd put into that. So by the middle portion of the game, Invisigal, like I would say maybe around episode 5, 6, 7, I was using her for not a lot, and it was only for things that was mobility, right? Like, oh, you need to, I don't even remember, maybe there's a bridge collapse and you got to get people off of it fast. Anytime the mission mentioned speed, she was up. Okay, she was next in line, but I didn't do it all that often. So I guess, what did this story mean? I just kind of find it funny myself because there's so much. And even, number one, you gain points by getting her in successful missions. Well, number one, she was not part of a lot of missions for me. And number two, you lose points if she was unsuccessful. I can tell you right now, just off the top of my head, and it's been 1 week for the last 2 episodes and multiple weeks for the others, I want to say I can remember specifically like 4 times she was part of a failed mission, which is already -4, right? And it's like, that's not the ones I can't remember. And it's also not taking into account, did I even send her on that many missions? Maybe I sent her on 10 missions and she was, successful 6, unsuccessful 4. So she was +2, and I guess she had to have been successful sometimes. Well, here's the thing, that Blazer thing, right? So getting their abilities, she was, I believe, the first one that I tried. I don't remember if she rejects it at first. I think I tried to send her. Was it during maybe episode 3 when she kind of just quits everything, right? She won't go. Well, there's also that too. She won't go on missions for like an entire episode. So it's like, well, what am I supposed to do? If she doesn't want to go on a mission, she's not going to get +1 or -1. But I do think that she did the Blazer thing. I do think she got her like unlocked power. So there's +5. So I don't know, through dispatching, I want to say maybe she got +7 to 10 at max, And then I think I probably maxed her out because reading through the list kind of myself, I did do like everything. So I think I probably got as close to the max of outside of dispatching humanly possible. And then, yeah, dispatching probably netted me, well, think about that, right? I probably got 35, 36 points outside, and then you need another 10 or so more. I probably got maybe 10 to 20. I think I probably called it pretty close in terms of that ending. So if I would have made a couple choices where I was like anti her in the story, I don't think my dispatching side would have been enough to like win her over. I probably would have got the anti anti-hero, ending. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon's turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.